joining us to have this conversation this morning is our guest, Solomon Emiola. He is a social justice advocate. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Solomon Emiola.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me on board.
Happy New Year.
Wish you the best.
We should the very same. You know, if we're going to talk about President Tinubu's policies, we have a lot to say. But we've entered the new year. Going by these current realities, how does President Tinubu's economic reforms address Nigeria's long-standing fiscal deficit, and what is their potential? What is the potential impact of these reforms on our national debt?
Yeah, thank you for this such a question, and it's what we need to be discussing at this present time. Because if you listen to the president's press chat, where he was telling us that if friend of his had raised all these big cars, and the person has turned to having what's it called now under CRB. We refer to that as lamba because economic policies or economics as a study in secondary school, we refer to it as a study of alternatives, in which this regime or this administration is proving to us as Nigerians that their own economic policy is the best, in which it is not, because it has not yet stopped the rate of poverty in the land. Thank God we're all familiar if the economic policies are working or have impact on the life of the citizens in which they are governing. Take, for instance, what happened at Abuja during food distribution. That case wouldn't have been, because the economic has to do with the food security, job opportunity, etc. So it means that the policy on its own has failed. It has failed the test of time, because even the president himself, he said he's teaching us how to manage things. But the question is, there is a Yoruba saying that said, Ilela wo.
Can you translate that?
That is, before leadership by example. Let me use that word. That leadership by example. That the president itself, there was no water at Abuja that he need or that warrant the president to board to get a yacht. So for the president to tell us that he's teaching all the citizens how to manage resources, then it means he ought to start first, not from we. If he wants to teach a child how to eat food, you need to demonstrate. And there is a saying that said, practice make perfect. What the president is not practicing is what he wants we, the citizens, to practice, which doesn't correlate. Like we have in the 83 anti-SAP, the same economic policies that they said there was no alternative to such, the same thing that this element, these people in power are just reintroducing to us in the 21st century, which shows that their ideas are out of place, but they are just forcing it on us as a citizen.
All right, thank you very much. So let's look at one of the highlights of last year, which was last year and last 2 years, the fuel subsidy removal and its effect on the economy. I mean, from 600 naira to about 1,000, 1,002, and now back to 900. I know Governor Zulum gave a subsidies, a slash for farmers, I think about 600 naira, which is a subsidy for that particular state. Then I'm sure you also heard that we heard it last 2 years, we heard it last year, that we actually saved trillions of naira from the petrol subsidy removal. Would you regard that as also, in your own words, lamba? And what has happened to this money that was saved, and how can it be redirected back into the economy?
Yeah, thank you. In this in our society, in our country today, we do things that contradict to well-organized society. Our own is the opposite side. When the president claimed he saved trillions of naira from fuel subsidy, according to them. Now, it is this same president that told us that the IGR, the GDP, income per capita, that is not increasing. So now, the question now should be, the 1 trillion, over 1 trillion naira that has been saved, what was it used for? What we can see that it was used for was just to accumulate wealth for the few within the ruling class. Part of it is building of vice presidential villa that cost the presidency nothing less than 21 billion naira. That 21 billion naira alone, it can lift a state out of poverty. And if you ask me how, at this present day, you see that even some of the SSA to the president are now venturing into small scale businesses by empowering people with POS machine and a sum of 100,000 naira as form of empowerment to them. Now, if we are going by that arithmetic, that format, it means we are going to liberate nothing less than over 100,000 people out of poverty. In which, if you look at the statistics of the rate of poor people who are earning below, who are living below expectation of the UNDG goals on poverty, this in $1 per day. It means in Oyo State we have 48.7%, and other states we have different statistics in which, if everything is being summarized together, and at what level we are the poverty capital. Look at that word, the capital of poverty, which means that all this money looks like audio money. Money that the citizens cannot benefit from, money that the citizens does not feel the impact. The only thing Nigerians enjoy as a citizen in this country is the subsidy. That's the only thing we enjoy. We don't have access to good roads, good health care, infrastructural development. In terms of education, nothing. And he has removed subsidy in almost all what we enjoy as a citizens. And this shows that all what they are telling us on media, and there is this saying that it is what the government wants the citizens to hear that they send out. Part of the cabinet also came out to kick against the illusion. A certain senator from the northern side kick against the policy, that the policy is not working for the people. So how do we now say, okay, the 1 trillion that they said they saved, of what impact does it have on the people? It does not. It doesn't have impact on the educational sector, not on the health sector. That 1 trillion naira alone can lift our schools out of the state it is now. That 1 trillion can resuscitate the educational sector from where it is, and that alone, if the educational sector gets it right, the country will have what we refer to as transformational development. In the case, money was not transformed into that aspect. It was set aside for political jobbers.
You know, this points you're making are very, very crucial points, and these are some of the reasons why they have called for an audit. So if we're saying we saved this particular amount from fuel subsidy, later on NNPC also said they got a particular profit, later they said they were in debt, it begs a lot of question as to accountability and transparency, and that's why a lot of Nigerians are calling for some sort of audits. These monies that have been saved, what was it used for? Where is it being stored? But away from that, we will have to move quickly because of our time. You know, there has been conversation about broadening Nigeria's tax-based system, and it's quite concerning for certain individuals. Now, what strategies do you think should be put in place to ensure that the broadening of Nigeria's tax base, based on our current reality, does not disproportionately burden the most vulnerable populations in the country?
Actually, you see, every strategies are strategy, but it depends on the goal of each strategy. If the federal government of today are willing to utilize a strategy that will lift the people from abject poverty, they knows how to go about it. They are politicians. And when they are canvassing for votes, they know the nook and cranny of where they canvass for votes. And they can even say, take for instance, I ran for office. I can tell you that, okay, at my constituency, I know some particular areas that this is what they need. And there is a study in a course in project management that talks about stakeholder mapping. There is need for the federal government to have a consultative meeting and meet the stakeholders to know what these people actually want. For instance, you cannot build or construct a road for a community in which what they need is not road, what they need is water. The road will be of no use. But if you provide to them water that will give them the opportunity to go into their daily activities by making ends meet, that alone will solve some problems. But to us, we believe in bringing ideas that cannot even transform just 8% of the population, even 0.005 of the population, in which this should not be goal or idea or strategy by any of those in power. The economic team or economic committee team, what has been their resolution? They also knew that none of their strategy can be implemented by this regime because they have some campaign funds that they need to sort out. And that's why you see that they prioritize those who spend for them during their election, not to those who are willing to serve the country for a better society whereby a son of nobody will become somebody. They don't prioritize that. They don't believe in technocrats. They only believe in those who pay for them, and they've turned the government to a family affairs. That is where you see the son of the office of the son of president, in which in the constitution it was not established. That is where you also see that a citizen abused the office of the son of the president and the police, and the next thing is the person was sent to jail because they don't believe in democracy themselves. They believe in what is it called, a plutocracy, that is government of the few within the ruling class, and that cannot work in a population of over 200 million people. It has not worked in the developed states, not to talk about the developing states.
Right. You know,
all right. Okay.
Just very quickly, now you've summed up a lot of things, but before we go, this is 2025. In your perspective, what is that one thing that you think the federal government or the current administration needs to look into and channel energy into to help us see a more sustainable economy this year? In less than 1 minute, I would like you to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you. What I think they should do is they should end poverty and bad governance.
How do you think they can end poverty? What are some of the strategies you'd advise them to adopt?
Yeah, first, there is need for stakeholder mapping. Each of the states, they knows where they are lacking behind. After the stakeholder mapping, there will be a roundtable conversation between the stakeholders to result on a particular problem to be solved.
All right.
So if those things are not put in place, forget about it. And also there is need for evaluation process, whereby anything that has been done, it needs to be monitored and evaluated. Does it work? If it works in Oyo State, can it also be duplicated at Lagos State? Will it work? And also to the northern part. And we should not also forget that the strategy that works in the southern part, in most of the cases, might not work in the northern part or in the eastern part of the country.
Right. Fantastic one there. So there needs to be intentionality in carrying this out. Thank you so much, Solomon Emiola, for joining us this morning. It's been a fantastic conversation with you, but we have to go. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me on board.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. Bye.
Bye.